Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the free hour. It's your boy Trevor Turner. We're back with another video in our productivity series, our ABCs of productivity. This series is about aligning productivity with purpose. It's about focusing on how effective habits, purposeful actions, steadily increase productivity by aligning tasks with long-term goals. And today we're on the letter F. If you like this video, make sure to go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment. If it's something in here that helped you, let me know. If it's something in here that you feel like I should have touched on that I didn't, let me know. So like I said, we're on the letter F. And F is for focus. In a world full of distractions, how do you stay focused on what truly matters? So F is for focus in the context of productivity. And what we're going to be learning today is the importance of focus in achieving productivity, strategies to improve focus and manage distractions, and how to align that focus with long-term goals for greater success. We're kind of getting past being able to just focus on what's right in front of you, on what needs to just get done. And we're moving past that into, we've talked about batching, we've talked about time blocking, we've talked about all of these different things to help us remain mindful of the bigger picture, remain mindful of the larger destination that you're trying to get to. So when we talk about focus in that context, we are talking about being able to remain mindful of those overarching things, those further reaching things, those bigger vision things, right? And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So what is focus? Focus is the ability to direct your attention deliberately and sustain it on a task, goal, or purpose. And focus is crucial for productivity, because focus allows you to concentrate on high-impact tasks, leading to more effective and efficient work. Now, when we put it in the context of our far-reaching goals, focus is being able to remain mindful of the things that are building up to that when other things are going on around us, when distractions are trying to take us out, when things that seem important but are just urgent come up. Being able to remain focused, being able to remain directed attention-wise on what it is that you're doing at the moment that is building up to that long-term goal. And it helps you to do things more efficiently. Because the cost of losing focus is really time, because it's distractions, it's multitasking, it's lack of clarity, and all of those things can derail productivity and progress. If you think about it in just simple terms of driving down the freeway, you know what destination you want to get to. You know it may be an hour and a half away. You know it may be 2 hours away. If you get off on the wrong exit, and you think about it in the greater scheme of things, it may not seem like you've added a lot of time to your end destination. But those extra turns you have to make, those trying to whip around, dealing with the traffic, of the choice that you made, the incorrect choice that you made, it just adds more time to what it is that you're doing. It's not efficient. It adds more effort. It gives you more mental fatigue. And it's the same way when it comes to things like distractions. Same way when it comes to things like multitasking or lack of clarity. Like when you think about your long-term far-reaching goals and you're setting up these smaller goals and you're remaining focused on those tasks, right? If you have a lack of clarity about what it is you need to be doing to build to it, you could be building up to something wrong. And it's the same way with just getting off the freeway. It's the same way when they talk about a plane. A plane leaving from LA to New York, if it adjusts even just a degree or two, it can end up on the opposite side of the coast. It could end up in like the Carolinas. It could end up in Florida. It could end up like a huge distance away from its intended destination just because of a shift, because of a lack of clarity. So now let's talk about the science of focus. Let's talk about focus and the brain. We also talk about the prefrontal cortex, and focus strengthens the prefrontal cortex. It enhances cognitive performance and decision-making. Now, focus is just like anything else. It's like a skill. When we think about skills, though, skills can be improved. When we think about being able to train ourselves to be able to do better, focus is something that we can train ourselves to do better. A lot of times we think that we are born with just that innate ability, and where we're at is just where we're always going to be at. No, you can train yourself to focus more efficiently, better, longer, drop into focus easier. Because we talk about Dr. Amishi Jha. It's a neuroscientist specializing in attention, resilience, and mindfulness at the University of Miami. And their research shows that mindfulness training improves sustained attention and reduces mind wandering. So we can actually train ourselves to have our mind wander less when we're trying to focus. We can actually train ourselves to be able to sustain attention on tasks, on goals, on these little steps that we're taking for longer periods of time. We can make it stronger. We can make it more impervious or more resistant to distractions or outside interference or outside noise. And the reason that's important, we go back to Gloria Mark, researcher at UC Irvine, known for her work on multitasking, its effects on attention. Attention residue. She talks about attention residue. It shows that switching tasks can leave remnants of focusing behind, reducing efficiency. This goes back to that 23 minutes we talked about before. It's the 23 minutes of time on average that it takes to refocus after a distraction or after trying to switch from task to task when you're trying to multitask. And the reason is because of this. It's that attention residue. Because even though you feel like you can fully switch lanes and do something else and then fully switch back lanes to do something else, what you've done is you are actually leaving bits of your attention behind on that. You are mentally focused on that task that you just left. You're not fully switching focus from task to task to task to task to task. You're not immediately. It takes a little bit of time for that attention residue to get cleaned up, to get back fully focused. And you can train yourself, obviously, over time to make that a little bit better. But the thing about it is that you want to be able to sustain attention so that this does not happen. You want to be able to completely remain focused on what it is that you are doing so that if something pops up in front of you, you can still stay focused on the goal. You can still stay focused on the end all be all. You can still stay focused on the results. You can still stay focused on where you're trying to get 5 years from now when that thing that needs to be done for someone else today pops up. And let's talk about some strategies to get there. Let's talk about strategies to build that focus. Time blocking. We talked about this before, where you allocate specific times for focus work and schedule breaks. One of the things about time blocking is, well, it's a whole bunch of benefits to time blocking. One, it reduces decision fatigue, where if you already know beforehand what it is that you're supposed to be doing at that time, you don't have to decide what it is that you're going to be doing. You don't have to look at all the tasks or all your goals or all your roles or where it is that you're trying to go. You don't have to look at anything except that alert that pops up on your phone, or if you open up your calendar, your pen and paper calendar, and you see what it is that you are supposed to be doing and you just do it. You don't have to decide nothing. Mental fatigue can actually come from having to make decisions like that. If you think about it, trying to decide what you're going to wear in the morning, you might get frazzled. Man, I ain't got nothing to wear. Or you pull out some shoes and they don't match your shirt. Or you can't find that belt that matches your shoes, or you can't find those jeans that you really like to wear with this one shirt, and you're like, damn, well, I got to find another shirt. And now what is actually happening is not only are you taking the time to do that, you're not being efficient with your time, but what you're doing is you're putting yourself under mental fatigue in the morning because you are trying to make too many decisions. Instead of it's like the equivalent of laying your clothes out the night before. You don't have to decide what you're going to wear. You already know. You don't have to decide which tasks you're going to focus on. You already know. You don't have to decide which goals you're going to work on at 1 o'clock. You already know. You don't have to decide which projects are going to come or which one is more important. Or, you know what, should I do this? I just got reminded about this one again. Or, you know what, they keep telling me that, hey, this is due, or the due date on this one is coming up. Even though you might be on track on it, it's just that urgency seems to be there. So it's like it gives you another decision that you have to make. Instead of saying, you know what, at 1, I'm going to work on this. At 2, I'm going to work on that. At 3, I'm going to work on that. And it's all laid out for you. Your clothes are laid out for you. Your pants are laid out for you. Your socks are laid out for you. Your underwear is laid out for you. Your shirt laid out for you. You got everything ready to go. You know how you're going to do your hair in the morning. Everything is ready to go. Your backpack is already packed up. Your briefcase is already packed up. The stuff that you need to take is already next to your clothes, next to your pockets. Everything is already ready to go for you to do. You just have to do it. And that eliminates decision fatigue. Also, what it does is eliminates attention residue, because if you are able to just fully focus on one thing at this time and just focus on that to literally the detriment of everything else, ignoring everything else that is going on during that hour, you will eliminate attention residue. It also eliminates things like procrastination, because you know that you're supposed to do things at this time, so you just do it. You just dive in, you start doing it. And here's the thing about this is that it also it helps with procrastination in my eyes, in my mind, because you're not worried about completing anything within that hour. You're just worried about working for that hour. You're not worried about completing the entire task. You're just worried about doing what you can do in that hour, in that 2 hours, in that hour and a half, in that 30 minutes. So now you're not telling yourself, it's like we talked about before, it's like when you're starting to work on these huge, massive projects, subconsciously or in the back of your mind, you're thinking like, damn, like this is a huge thing that I got to do today or in this hour. I have to tackle all of it. And the thing about it is, no, you don't have to tackle all of it. You just have to tackle an hour's worth of it. And then no matter how far you've come on it, you're done when that hour is done. It eliminates the pain of it. It eliminates the your mind's telling you that there's going to be unpleasantness associated with this activity. When you are able to say, when you see the light at the tunnel, it's like from before you even get into the tunnel, you already see the end of this work that you have to do. It's like, okay, I have to read like this many chapters for a class, or I got to read this whole report, or I have to do this whole report, or I have to do all of this, I have to do all this research, or whatever the case. No, you don't have to do all that. You just have to do an hour of it. And see, in my mind, it helps with the focus, because you're not worried about the outcome. You're just worried about the process, and you're just worried about what it is that you're doing. And of course, I recommend tools like you can use things like Google Calendar. You can use like your Apple Calendar. I got a homegirl up here, a friend that was showing me her calendar and how it's color coded, all her different tasks. So that way she's able to just look at it, know what she has to do, and just get into it. You can use Notion also, because Notion has templates. One of the templates that I got on my Notion is for the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It lets me predefine the roles that I want to, fulfill or be or embody throughout the week. And then what happens is that these roles, I'm able to further break it down and say, okay, like these actions build up to me, fulfilling that role. And if I don't fully know, I can take the time to ask myself, so I don't have to have that lack of clarity. I don't have to do things that I just think might be building up to what it is that I want to do. There also might be things that could add to what it is that you're trying to do that might escape your attention at the beginning if you're just thinking about the task and not who it is that you're trying to be. And I'll give you an example. So I'll give you 2 examples, actually. So one, I want to write a book. I want to get a book published. I want to be an author, right? So obviously, I got to write. Obviously, I have to write. But there's another thing about it, too, is that you want to do the framework of the book. You want to do things like outlines. You want to do things like develop characters. You want to do things like supply them with motivations and objectives. You want to do things like build settings. You want to do things like that, right? That go along with just putting the pen to the paper. So it's where you either sit down and think about these things, you sit down and brainstorm, sit down and write down some stuff, or you record it into your phone, or you kind of observe other people, whatever, to kind of fill in the blanks on these things. So that way, when you're taking your character through all these environments and all these adventures, like they're already kind of made. Like you already kind of know what your character is going after. You know what your character's motivations are. You know what your character's obstacles are going to be. You know what the environment is going to put in his way. You know about I'm trying to write a science fiction book. So it's like I know about, I've built this entire space station that the dude is going to be on. The government, how the law enforcement works, who's really in control, who's running behind the scenes. And I have all of this stuff, ready to go. So that way, when my character goes through it, it doesn't look like it doesn't feel like I'm just making it up as I go. It's something I can refer back to also. It's like, okay, you know what? My character would do this, but would my character know not to do this in this environment? Or would my character say, fuck it and just do it, right? And the thing about it is this, I don't have to make those decisions every single time because I've laid the framework for myself. And that goes to the role of being the author. And that's not a super obvious thing, until you start asking yourself questions. If you want to be a better student, you start to think about things like, okay, I need to write this paper. So you put down yourself time to write the paper. But then one of the things about it is that you have kind of like, you go into writing the paper, you pull out everything you need to write the paper, you pull out and open up the Word document. And then it's like, oh, well, shit, I got to look up sources. So now you're switching tasks within the task and you're giving yourself attention residue. And what happens is because if you are trying to make yourself a good student, one of the things that goes into that role is getting good grades in the class. What gets you good grades in the class? Having sources that are cited, having scholarly sources, qualifying those sources the way that I qualify the sources to you, where I talk about who the person is, where they are, what they've done, and what they're known for before I go into the study that they've done, right? And you want to do the same things as a good student. So that might be like, okay, before I even open up the Word document, before I even prepare myself to write anything, I'm looking up and just skimming through 2 articles and saying, okay, those fit, that fits, those fit. Okay, let me read this one in full. That one doesn't fit, so let me just get rid of that one. And you spent your 45 minutes before a 15-minute break, or you spent your hour time block doing that adds up to being a good student. It allows you to realize what all it takes to fulfill those roles. And that's why I like the 7 Habits one, and that's why I like that template on Notion. Number 2, single tasking over multitasking. The importance of focusing on one task at a time. Look, when you try to multitask, unless the task is so similar that it could pretty much be actually the same task, you will get things like attention residue. You will get things like that on average of 23 minutes of trying to switch back and forth. And if you think about it, most of us are busy. We're the busiest we've ever been. Look, unless you're unemployed, unless you're in prison, unless you ain't got shit going on, unless you ain't got no family, unless you ain't got no friends, unless you just like you have no recreation, you ain't got no life, like you need those 23 minutes because you're only going to be able to devote yourself or schedule yourself an hour or 2 every day for certain tasks. Like I'm in this booth for an hour. So that means that I have to know exactly how long I'm going to be talking into this camera, exactly how many videos I'll be able to do in each time I get into this booth, right? It'll be different when I get to the house or during the break or whatever because, I'll be recording at the house. I'll have more time to kind of give myself more leeway. But the problem is I still won't be able to multitask because I'll never be able to get the video done. Like if I'm trying to do this one video and I do the one video and then I hit stop on this one and then I go to create an outline for the next video, it's going to take me 23 minutes to switch my mind. And on average, it's not going to take actual full 23 every single time, but on average, it may even take you longer than this sometimes if you're trying to really like slow down from this one task and wind down. Like, I got to be up here and I got to talk and I got to put, the energy into my voice and I got to do all this other stuff, right? And then when I'm on the computer, I'm just kind of relaxed. I'm thinking about, okay, what do I want to talk about? How do I want to talk about it? How do I want to break up the sections? And it's like that whole energy shift. It could take me even longer to wind down from me being on this microphone. And then when I get done doing that outline, that's a whole nother 23 minutes I've used, a whole nother 30 minutes to create the outline. Now I'm out of the booth. I don't have time to be in the booth. So what happens is you want a single task. You want to, when you are doing your time blocking, or even if you're not doing your time blocking, you're just doing to-do lists, focus on that one task only. Because not only will it get rid of the attention residue, not only will it get rid of the context switching, but it gives you just more efficient and better quality work. Let's talk about the Pomodoro Technique, number 3. Pomodoro Technique, we talked about this before. This is just working in 25-minute intervals, 5-minute breaks, followed by a longer break after 4 cycles of this. So 25 minutes, 5 minutes, a 30-minute session. 25 minutes, 5 minutes, that's a 30-minute session. 25 minutes, 5 minutes, 30-minute session. 25 minutes, 5 minutes, 30-minute session. After 2 hours, you take a longer break. And I would suggest, me personally, that if you are in a position where you have to take longer than 2 hours working on a specific task, like that adds up to something bigger later on, I would suggest that you have not done enough time throughout the week on it. Like, you should be able to, utilize 2 hours fairly well and fairly effectively. There are very time consuming tasks like editing videos that are very, very long or whatever. You're going to need these breaks or whatever. But I think for the most part, 2 hours should be bull. It should be good. It should be cool for most tasks. You should be able to take your 2 hours. But if you need to take longer than the 2 hours, use the Pomodoro Technique. If you need to take longer than these 2 hours, use this Pomodoro Technique, because this will help you to get rid of mental fatigue. And I know, I've worked with people who mix and master music. I work with people who do video editing. I work with people who shoot videos and stuff like that. And you can kind of see, like, after a couple of hours, you can kind of see their eyes start to glaze over. You can start to see them yawning. You start to see them going like this. You start to see them going like this. You start to see them be scrunched up in the face. You start to see their attitude kind of shift and change. They start getting hungry. They start being like moving a little bit slower. So the thing like the Pomodoro techniques, it helps with those things when you are doing those tasks that do require a lot longer amounts of time. And then they got apps like Focus Booster or Tomato Timer that help you implement this technique. I haven't used any of these tasks, any of these apps or whatever, but I looked up a couple, and they got those. Plus, they got the Pomodoro app, I believe, that helps with that. Number 4, eliminating distractions. Turn off notifications. Turn off notifications. Put your phone on D&D. Put your phone on airplane mode. Create your distraction-free workplace. If you got people physically and not just on your phone, get some of these. If you are not able to physically escape, get some type of barrier between the people you're around. Create your distraction-free workplace. Use apps like and use like some of those apps that help prevent you from, scrolling on certain different apps unless you do a certain activity. That'll help you bring yourself back to like, okay, no, I was supposed to be doing something, and put it away. And it will also help to eliminate when people try to come talk to you. It will eliminate people trying to put more work in front of you that seems important because it's important to them, but it's not actually important because it doesn't build up to what it is you're doing. Like if from 1 to 3 you're working on that personal passion project, if from 1 to 3 you're working on that thing that's going to add your value to the company, and you got a coworker saying, hey, man, I need help on this report. Okay, bro, you better come back at 3:05. Or even longer after that, because you're taking the longer break after the 2-hour mark with the Pomodoro. Or your boss comes with something, you say, okay, I'll get on it when I can. I'm working on this right now. And the thing about it is that they should already know. The boundaries should already be there. The headphones should be obvious. You should be working. And not having your phone in your hand, not having any apps up, not having any websites up that aren't related to what it is that you're doing, just working on what it is that you're supposed to be working. That will help to create that distraction-free environment. That will help to create the boundaries. Number 5, practice mindfulness. I encourage mindfulness exercises. One of the things that I encourage is the breath awareness. Is where you just focus on your breathing, focus on following your breath into your body. And you just basically do that by feeling the different sensations, feeling where your breath hits you as it goes in. Like when you breathe in through your nose, you might feel like you're cold right here. Then you might feel like, you might not feel anything up here, but you might feel like, movement or expansion right here. You might feel a pull on your chest, and just focusing on everything that you feel. And what it does, it takes you out of here and brings you back into your body. And it helps you to remain mindful. My bad. It trains you to stay present and focused. One of the things that I also like is the box breathing, where you breathe in for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. And what it does is that focusing on that count, it eliminates all the running thoughts. It eliminates the distracting thoughts where you're just focusing on your breath. And it trains you to stay present and focused. Spend 5 minutes daily practicing mindfulness, and it'll improve your focus over time. One of the things that happens is you need to learn your triggers. You need to learn your cues. You need to learn the indicators of when you are losing focus and be able to learn how to immediately drop down into breathing, immediately drop down into refocusing. Just the way that we are learning in our other series how to identify our emotional triggers to where we can, you know what, let me relax my hands. Let me do my muscle relaxation. Let me roll my shoulders. Let me do a little bit of breathing. Let me relax. It's the same thing with distractions. When you notice that your mind is wandering from what it is that you're trying to do, take a quick breath and just notice the air. Feel how my chest feels. Feel how it feels coming out here. Okay, back to work. Number 6, set clear goals for each session. And this is where the lack of clarity comes in, is that break tasks into smaller, manageable goals and focus on completing one at a time. This is one of the things also that helps with the 7 habits thing, is that when you are doing your roles and you are assigning yourself these projects, you are going to have to break them up into the smaller things. Breaking them up into smaller things actually gives you just something to shoot for also, because it gives you a sense of accomplishment. It gives you a sense of progress. It gives you a little bit of urgency, but not too much urgency to where the procrastination will kick in. It's also about finding a good balance. It's about knowing how much you can complete, how much you should complete, and then how much you will complete. I go back to the working on the book thing. When I was very first starting to work on the book and I had wrote a gang of pages and then I didn't write any more for the longest time, it's because I wasn't giving myself clear and manageable goals for each time that I put the pen to the paper. I was letting the procrastination win. I was thinking that, damn, I got to have enough time to write this whole 10 pages again. I got to have enough inspiration or motivation or whatever the fuck is going on in my mind to be able to write this whole 10 pages again. Instead, I said, you know what? Because I haven't been writing enough and I really want to write, I really enjoy it, it makes me feel better. Let me just start with 1 page a day or 1 page every time I sit down. And at first, yes, it did feel like it wasn't enough. At first, it felt like it was too easy. It felt like it wasn't, leading up or adding up to anything. But the thing about it was is that it was more than I was doing before. It was clear, it was manageable, and I was able to completely focus on it. To where I got to the point where I said, okay, well, let me up and do 2. Let me up and do 3. Let me up and do 4. Let me try it up and do 5. And then I found out, okay, that's where I kind of break out. It becomes unmanageable for every single session. But the thing about it is that you will be able to find that happy medium and do this for every time that you do anything that's building up to anything. Small, manageable goals that are focused, that will help you, give you that sense of accomplishment, that will help you let you know that you're on track and focused on what it is you're trying to do. So now let's talk about aligning focus with purpose. Prioritize your high-impact tasks. Use tools like the Eisenhower Matrix to identify tasks that align most closely with long-term goals. And I always go back to the 7 habits one on this one, was the quadrants. You have quadrant 1, which is urgent and important. Those are the things that you have to do right now. If you're in school, it's the assignment that's due tomorrow. It's the assignment that's due on your next class session. If you are at work, it's that report that you have to get done for the meeting later this afternoon. It's those reports you have to get done to turn into your boss by the end of the week. Those things are important for your livelihood, and they're also urgent because they got to be done now or quickly. Then you have quadrant 2. These are the things that are important but not urgent. They're not pressing. These are the things that are maintenance on your vehicle, right? Unless and the reason I say it's not urgent is because when you get that little alert or when you get that whatever, your mileage hits a certain amount where you have to change your oil again, where it's suggested you change your oil again, if you don't do it right then, nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen bad to your car. It's when you ignore it and you continuously not do it and you continuously say, okay, I'll do it the next time I get a chance. I'll do it next weekend. I'll do it next weekend. And you continuously ignore it. Eventually it becomes an urgent thing. And it becomes a way worse urgent thing than it would have been if you had just taken care of it when it was just important but not urgent. These are also things like going to the gym, taking care of your health. Because, it's not urgent right now that you're in there, taking care of your health, that you're in there taking your cardiovascular system, that you're in there managing your weight. But when you get older, when your joints get tired of carrying around a heavy body, when your blood has too much sugar and it can't process the sugar because your kidneys are not working right, when you've been drinking so much that your liver just decides like, hey, man, I can't do this shit no more, when you've been smoking so much that your lungs are like, hey, man, I can't do this shit no more, or when you're just so overweight that you just can't even like do the things that you want to do because every time you get up and out of bed, it's just pain. And it just hurts and it's hard, or you want to look a certain way or attract a certain type of people, but you're just not there with it because you just can't physically do it. Now it becomes urgent because you haven't taken care of it. These are the things like at work when you are working on something that's going to help you land that promotion. It's not something your boss is going to come and tell you like, hey, bro, like, did you do that today? Hey, man, are you going to have that done for me by the end of the week? They're not going to even tell you. They're going to just say, hey, man, look, there's a spot going to be opening up end of year. If you are able to get your sales up, or if you're able to get this done, or you're able to do these things, you will shine and you will look better for that position. But he's not going to keep coming and telling you that you need to do it. He's not going to keep coming and reminding you. You have to remember to do it. And these things are the high impact tasks. The paper that's due a month and a half from now, but it's a 10, 20, 30, 40 page paper, 100-page paper, and you need to be writing and working on it every single day. You need to be working on getting and qualifying sources every single day. You need to be working on collecting research and talking to people or doing whatever the fuck you got to do for it every single day. But you don't have a constant reminder of it. You don't have somebody breathing down your neck. Those are the high impact tasks. So when you focus and align your focus with your purpose, we're talking about these quadrant 2 high impact tasks. Like, I know that I want to be a good student. I know I want to graduate with a certain level of whatever the fuck. I know I want to get this piece of paper. And I know it takes me doing things at a certain time. It takes me doing things in a certain way. And I don't have anybody breathing down my neck to tell me to do this shit. Because I'm not in high school no more. College professors, like, you don't turn the shit in, they might be like, hey, man, you're kind of fucking up. But they're not going to be like, hey, where's that thing at? It's late. Why haven't you turned it in yet? They're not going to do that. I don't have nobody breathing down my neck. I don't got my parents around to tell me, hey, you need to clean your room. You need to do this other stuff. Hey, you need to get to the gym. You need to work out. I don't got nobody telling me to do that shit. But I know I want to look good on camera. I know I want to look better on camera than I do now. So I got to get in the fucking gym. I know that I want to do that. So I need to focus on these tasks. I know that I want to graduate. I know that I want to transfer to a good school. I know that I want to do all this stuff. So I have to do the things that I want to do. So you need to identify your tasks, first of all, that align most closely with the long-term goals. It's about the roles that you assign yourself. And a lot of times the roles that you assign yourself are going to be closely identified with those long-term goals. But even those roles are going to be busted down into smaller parts. You need to keep track and be mindful of how these roles are going to add up to those long-term goals, how those roles are going to add up to where it is that you want to go in your destination. And you need to be able to bust those down into even smaller tasks. And when you bust them down into even smaller tasks, you need to remain focused on those things and constantly remember just how important they are to you. Everything that you dream about. Remember, everything that you dream about, all of the energy that you have when you dream about these big, grandiose things that you want to do, you need to commit that same focus, that same energy, that same drive, that same desire on these smaller tasks after you've identified them. And then after that, you need to reflect on the purpose. I suggest taking time to connect with your why before beginning focus work to reinforce the motivation. It's that energy. It's that gratitude. I really want you to close your eyes and I want you to think about how you're going to feel When you go check the ATM, how are you going to feel when you check your bank account app and you see that you got that money? How are you going to feel when you see that text or that call or whatever fuck from your boss and say you got that promotion? How are you going to feel when you look up behind you at your desk at work and you see that paper that says master's, you see that paper that says doctor, when you see that paper that says whatever the fuck? Remind yourself how you're going to feel. So that way when you're putting yourself into this work, when you're focusing on these tasks, you're able to bring that energy to it every single time. Every time. And then measure progress. I encourage that you track the focus and productivity weekly. Assess improvements, make adjustments. See where it is that you need to tighten up. See where it is that you can improve. And this is how I just explained this to you with the writing thing. Every week I was kind of going back and I was like, okay, you know what? I can do more. So I tried to do more. Okay, I can do more, so I tried to do more. Okay, I can do more, so I tried to do more. I think I can do more, so I tried to do more. You know what? I was able to do more, and the quality was still up there, so let me go ahead and do even more. And then I was like, you know what? The quality is starting to slip. You know what? My procrastination is starting to kick in. You know what? I'm not able to do it with that same energy, so let me go ahead and kick back down and do less. And that reassessment helped me to get and stay on track with what it is that I'm trying to do. It helps me to keep that energy. It helps me to keep that focus. I want you to be able to measure your progress. And if you're not doing enough or up to your own expectations, find out why. Find out what's throwing the monkey wrench into the plans. Find out what's keeping you from doing those things. All right? And let's talk about overcoming the barriers to focus. Let's talk about dealing with overwhelm. Overwhelm is like the same. Overwhelm builds up to procrastination. It's about that displeasure. It's about that pain. It's about that all those things, that negative connotations that we associate with a lot of these bigger, overarching, larger vision tasks. And you just break down the large projects into smaller steps. It's the same way that you walk a mile, one step at a time. It's the same way that you eat an elephant, one bite at a time. It's the same way that you do anything, one step at a time. Break the things down into clear, measurable steps. So that way you don't have to look at it and see like, damn, I have to do all of this to get this done. You're able to just say, no, I just have to do this today. I just have to do this today. I just have to do this today. But the thing is that you've broken it down. You've given it clarity so that you know what it builds to. You know what it leads to. So that way you're able to look back, like how we were just talking about measuring progress. You're able to see how far you've come. And you're able to resist overwhelm because you're not focusing on how far you still have to go. Let's talk about managing mental fatigue. Breaks. Stay hydrated. Get enough sleep. These things help you recharge your brain. Because you know that there are times that you're going to perform at your peak performance. So what you want to do is you want to be prepared for those times. You want to get enough sleep. You want to make sure that you have your breaks. You want to make sure that, you're good and hydrated. You want to make sure that you are fresh and ready to go when it is time to go. You also want to make sure that you're not spending so much time on one thing or so much energy on one thing that you don't have energy for anything else for the rest of the day. And a lot of times what happens is that we'll put so much of our energy into something that's not even the main thing. And we will come out of it with so much mental fatigue. We will come out of it with so much tiredness. We will come out of it with so much of our energy just sapped and taken away from us that we can't even get back on track to do the main thing. That thing that we dream about, that thing that we're constantly thinking about, that thing that I tell myself in the morning, like, I will be this by this time. I will have this by this time. I will be with these people by this time. I will have this person by that time. I will have these things. But then this person brings and puts this thing in front of us and we focus so much of our mental energy, so much of our mental fatigue on it. Or we have so many different projects we could be doing. So we're spending so much time deciding and giving ourselves that mental fatigue or dealing with attention residue or dealing with things like context switching, dealing with all of those things so that by the time we get to the main thing, we just don't got it in us. So it's beyond doing things like scheduling breaks and being hydrated and getting adequate sleep. It's all of these things put together. And it seems complicated. It seems like a lot. But once you get it down pat, It just allows you, the preparation just allows you just to go. As soon as that time hits, you can just go. You don't have to pick anything up. You don't have to change clothes. You don't have to go anywhere else. You don't have to do nothing else. All you have to do is literally, okay, it's this time. Everything's ready for me to go. Everything's set up. And I'm just doing it. I'm just going. And then build the habit of focus. We always talk about habits. The free hour is basically about building habits. Consistency and patience in developing the ability to focus over time. One of the things I say is this, is that give yourself grace. As long as you are showing up, as long as you're showing up for yourself every day at the beginning. And you might say, like, okay, I'm going to work for an hour on this. You might not actually be able to work for an hour on that thing. You might be still training your focus muscle. You might be still training your prefrontal cortex. You might find yourself scrolling. You might find yourself doing something that's not there. But as long as you show up for yourself, give yourself the grace to say, you know what? I showed up. I started. I was there. I allowed myself to be there. I allowed myself to do what it is or be where I said I was going to be. I may not have done everything I said I was going to do, but you know what? I'm just starting this thing. Give yourself grace. Give yourself patience. It's going to take time. One of the things that I tell myself all the time is like, you know, it's been 30 plus years of me being a piece of shit. It's going to take time for me to not be a piece of shit every day. It's going to take time for me not to think about stealing shit. It's going to take time for me to not think about selling drugs to get everything that I want. It's going to take time for me to not think about being a toxic piece of shit to every female that I meet. It's going to take time for me to not try to get at the females that I work with or anything like that, or get at females at school. It's going to take time for me to change my ways of thinking fully, because in the place that I was at, I was able to change my thinking about that environment. Now I'm in a different environment. Now I have to change my way of thinking about this environment. I have to change my way of thinking about myself. I have to change my way of thinking about, you know, in relation to the way that I was raised. I have to change all of these things. And it's going to take time. It's not going to take as much time as it took to build that stuff up, but it's going to take time. It's going to take enough time that you need to give yourself patience. A lot of these habits that you never had before. And I saw a post where they said that a lot of my dreams are contingent upon me waking up with a drive and a motivation that I've never had in my entire life. A lot of this stuff is contingent on you waking up tomorrow with a drive and a focus that you never had in your entire life. So that's why you need to be patient with yourself. You might be thinking like, damn, I want to change my life, but how do I do it? You might be thinking like, damn, I want to get different results, but how do I get there? You might be thinking like, damn, I want to cram something else into my day that isn't work, that's going to help me get somewhere that I want to go. I want to write a book for my kid. I want to do this thing. I want to go back to school. I want to get a better job. I want to research stocks so I can save the little bit of money that I have left over at the end of the month. I don't have much, but I got $100 I can put in here instead of putting it over the fuck here or doing whatever the fuck I'm doing with it. I want to learn these things. I want to do these things. And then you wake up the next day and you don't find the energy to do it. You don't find the time to do it. You don't find the focus to do it. You don't find the drive to do it. But it's like, if you just start scheduling this stuff and say, okay, I'm going to time block 20 minutes to do this stuff, and you just show up. You might scroll a couple articles about stocks and bonds for 10, 15 minutes, and then just be like, man, but I'm just worn out from the day. Give yourself that patience. Give yourself that grace, and then show up again tomorrow. Show up for yourself consistently. Show up for yourself consistently. And because remember, like, you're still in a training process. Like, when you first get a job, right, unless it's a job that requires, like, intensive training or intensive education, one of the things that'll happen is, like, when you first get a job, like, the first few times you show up is them showing you the ropes. And then if it's a simple job, after they've shown you the ropes a couple times, they kind of let you at it yourself. But then they're still kind of like, hey, they're coming back. Hey, how you doing? Did you need a refresher on anything? Like, hey, I noticed that you're doing this. Go ahead and do it like this because that's not how we do it over here, blah, 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 right? And it's like, if you are giving yourself that grace with that job, or if the people at this job are paying you money and giving you grace while paying you money. You can give yourself grace when on Monday you told yourself that you were going to write for 30 minutes and you were only able to put the pen to the paper for 20 minutes because you were thinking about doing other stuff, but you showed up. You can give yourself that grace. As long as you show up again tomorrow. As long as you don't decide, you know what, this isn't working for me and I got to stop after like a week or 2 weeks or a year, or nothing's happened after a year and I don't have 1 million subscribers and I'm just going to stop making these videos. After one series is done, after one topical series is done, give yourself that grace. Give yourself that consistency. Keep showing up. Keep showing up and you'll develop your ability to focus. So that's it. That's focus. Talk about what focus is. We talked about the importance of focus and productivity, and all as this contributes to aligning our productivity with long-term purpose and long-term goals. We talked about key strategies for building that focus. We talked about how to align it with our long-term goals. One of the things that I would ask you guys to do, one of the things I would ask you guys to ask yourself, one of the things that I would ask you guys to think about, start thinking about today, is what will you focus on today and how will it move you closer to your goals? What will you focus on today and how will it move you closer to your goals? Because where focus goes, energy flows. And that was by Tony Robbins. All right. Thank you very much for watching the free hour. It's a little bit longer video. I do apologize about that. But if it's important to you to kind of get out of that rut, if it's important to you to be able to gain focus in what it is that you're trying to do, then this video is probably something that's going to hit on some of the things that you were maybe even thinking about. You know, hopefully, we didn't get too lost in it, and hopefully it helps. If you like the video, like the video. Leave a comment on the video. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Check me out. Check out my other videos, my other ABC series on emotional intelligence, my ABC series on mindfulness. I'm coming back with the 5 years from now because you know what? The semester was pretty good. Did good this semester. A lot of shit's been going on, a lot of changes, but, and the next time, I'll be recording, I'll be at the house. It'll be Christmas break and everything. And, just come fuck with me. All right? It's been your boy Trevor Turner. Thank you for watching the free hour productivity series. Deuces.